Have you ever felt like the wealthiest people are all in on some secret about money that you're just not? Well, turns out they are. But here's the thing, it's not really about how much money they make, it's all about how they manage it. So let's dive into the simple framework they use to build real wealth. Wow, this right here gets to the absolute heart of it. You see, the entire financial system is really built on this one fundamental divide. You have the people who earn, and then you have the people who own. Missing this one idea is the secret that keeps most people stuck. And understanding it, well, that changes everything. Just look at this. You see the common thread, right? Entrepreneurs, they own businesses. Investors, they own assets. Inheritors, they own trusts. The big takeaway here is that the wealthiest people are overwhelmingly owners. They're not just working for a salary, they have things that are working for them 24/7.
Okay, so that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually make that shift from just earning to owning, especially if you're not starting out with a ton of money? Well, lucky for us, there's a specific rule for that.
This is it. This is the blueprint. It's a simple but incredibly powerful rule, and it's designed so that literally anyone, no matter what your income is, can start managing your money like the top 1%. It's broken down into 4 key parts, and we're going to walk through every single one. So the first and honestly, the most important part is growth. The idea is that 25% of your income is dedicated to one thing, buying assets. These are things that increase in value over time. This is how you start to build a system where your money is out there working for you, even when you're sleeping. And this slide right here perfectly illustrates why that growth part is so vital. You know the cycle. You get paid, you pay your bills, and suddenly there's nothing left. That's not an accident. It's a trap. It's a system designed to keep you with zero breathing room, forcing you to just work harder and harder to stay afloat. Owning assets, that's how you fight back. That's how you break free. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have enough to start. But listen, time is your most powerful asset. Let me tell you about Billy and Phil. Billy starts investing when he's 20, just putting in $200 a month. Phil waits until he's 30, but he invests more, $300 a month, to try and catch up. So who do you think ends up with more? The results are, well, they're staggering. Even though Phil actually invested more of his own money over the years, Billy ends up with nearly double. How? It's the magic of compound growth. His money had an entire extra decade to work for him. So the lesson here is simple. Starting now, even if it's small, is way, way better than waiting to start big. So, how do you actually do this? It's really just a simple 3-step process. First, you pick your assets. We'll get to that. Second, you use accounts that save you money on taxes. That's a no-brainer. And third, and this is key, you put the whole thing on autopilot, so it just runs in the background without you even thinking about it. Okay, here are some of your options, laid out from low risk to high risk. For most people, honestly, index funds are the absolute best place to start. Don't think of it as trying to pick one winning stock. Think of it as buying a tiny piece of the entire market. It's a simple, proven way to grow your money. And hey, don't forget this one. Building high-income skills is also an investment, and it's one that no one can ever, ever take away from you. All right, next up, 15% for stability. Now, this is not your growth money. This is your defense. This is what keeps you in the game. And I learned this the hard way. When I was young, I bought this VJ Golf on a loan, and I felt like I was on top of the world. 3 months later, the engine blew up. I had no backup, and that one stupid event set me back an entire year. This fund is what prevents that from ever happening to you. And that's the core truth right there. It's not usually the day-to-day spending that gets you. It's the one unexpected bill, a car repair, a surprise medical issue that can derail everything. And if you're investing, you might be forced to sell your assets at the absolute worst possible time. A stability fund is your margin for error. It's the buffer that keeps you in the game when life, inevitably happens. So how much do you actually need? The calculation is super simple. First, figure out your monthly baseline. We're not talking about fancy dinners, just your core survival expenses. Rent, groceries, utilities. Then you multiply that number by 5. So if your baseline is, say, $1,500, your target is $7,500. Every single month, 15% of your income goes straight into this fund until you hit your goal. Now, where you keep this money is just as important as having it. There are 3 rules, and they are non-negotiable. 1, it has to be liquid. You need to be able to get your hands on it fast in an emergency. 2, it absolutely cannot be invested in the stock market. Zero risk. We're not trying to grow this money, we're trying to protect it. And 3, it shouldn't just be sitting there doing nothing. Put it in a high-yield savings account, so it's at least earning some interest while it's protecting you. All right, let's move on to the biggest slice of the pie, 50% for your essentials. This is the money that covers the stuff that, keeps you alive and functioning. Rent, food, insurance, transportation. By capping this at 50%, it forces you to make a really important distinction between what you truly need versus what's just lifestyle creep feeding your ego. This is such a critical distinction to make. We're all conditioned to think wealth looks like designer watches and flashy cars, but true wealth is almost always the exact opposite. It's the investments you don't see, it's the stability fund you don't see, and it's the debt you don't have. This reminds me of an old friend of mine. On the surface, he looked like he had it all. The expensive watch, the nice car, the whole deal. But in reality, I knew his bank account was practically empty. I, on the other hand, looked the total opposite, but I had money quietly growing in the background and a solid stability fund. It was a huge lesson for me. Looking rich and being rich are two very, very different things. So how do you actually keep your essentials in check? Look, don't rely on willpower alone. It's too hard. Use a system. Before any non-essential purchase, just ask yourself these 3 simple questions. This little framework stops you from buying stuff just to impress other people and helps you focus on what's truly going to add value to your life. And finally, we get to the last 10%. Now, don't think of this as an afterthought. It's actually a critical part of the whole strategy. This is the money that keeps you sane. It's what reminds you why you're being so disciplined in the first place. Skipping this step is why most financial plans totally fail. This is the perfect way to think about it. If you're constantly saving and depriving yourself without any joy, it starts to feel like a punishment, and eventually you're just going to break. This 10% is your planned, totally guilt-free cheat meal. It's what makes the entire system sustainable for the long haul, not just for some miserable short sprint.
And you know what? The best rewards aren't always things. In fact, they rarely are. They're the memories you make on a vacation, the passion you feel from a hobby, the connection from a great night out with friends. This is about investing in your health, your relationships, and yeah, your happiness.
So there you have it, the 25-15-50-10 rule. It is a complete system to shift you from being owned by your money to owning your future. The only question left is, what will you start owning today? An index fund? A new skill? The choice, my friend?
If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, like, and share.